Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Penda James, and I am a scribe coach. What I do is I assist leaders who are in transition to get unstuck, execute their goals, and inscribe their legacy. What you are watching or listening to is the Resilience Project. This is an opportunity for me to gather 100 declarations for leaders. We're talking about resilience, how leaders have bounced back, and they are giving you tools to make sure that you can do the same thing. So go get your journals, get your pen, take notes, because my guest today is going to drop a lot of nuggets for you. I'm so excited to introduce you to my sister friend, my sister, Dr. LaShonda Fuller. She's a native of Detroit, Michigan, proud of that. She earned her doctorate at Bowling Green State University, where she also did her undergrad work. And she's a psychologist, she's a researcher. I mean, she's just doing it all over the world. With that said, her passport is full of stamps.
Well, I have to correct you because I only got my bachelor's and my master's from Bowling State University, and I got my PhD from Western Michigan.
That's right, Western Michigan. So forgive my oversight.
And I'm not a psychologist, I'm a licensed professional counselor.
So what is your doctorate in?
My doctorate is in counselor education and supervision.
Okay, so I have you all jacked up.
Well, no.
In my mind, I got all these other details that are not you, but I always thought you were a psychologist because you study and research so much.
Well, that comes with the PhD. You know, they train you to be a scholar, to be a researcher, to actually be able to do and implement and conduct experiments on samples, and really your subjects would be people, so that you can make life better.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you do.
Thank you.
What is one of the things that you love researching?
Oh, I love researching perception. I love researching what causes people to make decisions the way that they do. Right? What's the influence behind that? And then I actually love experimenting with love.
Okay. I do want you to talk more about that. So unpack that a little bit.
Well, I think especially during times such as this, you know, when everyone and most people are in crises, people are reacting out of their emotions. Sometimes people, you mentioned in your introduction how as a scribe coach, you assist leaders and writers to become unstuck. And so considering that sometimes mental thoughts and patterns of belief systems, they keep us stuck in a certain way of living, in a certain way of believing, in a certain way of doing. And then when you have someone you meet who is basically free, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, all of those things, all of those systems that we attach ourselves to, and that person comes into your life and shows you that life can be experienced differently, and they have no expectations from you. They just want to love you. They just want to, you know, bring a smile to your face. It's interesting within the past 2 years how people have responded to me and in disbelief in the beginning. And then it's almost like, well, do I take advantage of this? And then when, and you know, and me being a person where I can say, hey, this is not for you to take advantage of. This is for you to appreciate. Like I can communicate effectively with a person about, I see how this is, no, you know, whether it's a client, a family, a friend, you know, a stranger, a coworker. So bringing love to situations is enjoyable because you start to see how some people are really not used to unconditional love.
I think that's really interesting that you said that, because part of the reason why I needed to start the Resilience Project was because I needed to reevaluate how I do things and do them in love.
Yeah.
So being in the position of always doing the same thing the same way in a mundane routine.
It's dull.
And I had a coach say to me, you got to do it in love. And it really resonated with me. Like, my name means love. I love people deeply. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's really a big part of what the Resilience Project is, bringing us back to love, and really that self-love.
Absolutely. Yeah. So experimenting with that brings other people into it. It's not just about you and your self-love anymore. It's about how do you spread that self-love where there is no love, or where there is little love, or where there is rejection to love.
Yeah. I hope you come back and listen to this and write that all down, because that's all really, 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 really good. I'm gonna have to come back and listen to it.
Okay, well, touche.
So the declaration that we are going to be discussing today is, I am not afraid to soar.
Yeah, when we talked about that briefly the other day, what the spirit brought back to me is that I am soaring, right? Like it was almost like immediately change that. It's not you, not, I'm not afraid to soar. No, you are soaring. So therefore, it's in action mode, right? Creating past tense, going into future. It's all about the present, right? I'm soaring. But I remember when I was at a state where I am not afraid, right? I think we live in levels, we live in stages, we live in sometimes we live in boxes, but considering what I where I've been mentally and emotionally, like really trying to save relationships, really trying to impress upon the gifts that I have in certain circles. Before I moved back to Detroit, I remember connecting with one of my homeboys who is now really, he's doing well, been doing big things for a minute now. And he's back home in Detroit, Sean Blanchard. I think I mentioned his book to you.
Yes.
How about that for a crack baby? And so we would talk often, and one, I remember talking to him before I moved back to Michigan about like what circles are there, right? What circles are in Detroit, professional circles that I might be interested in connecting with, becoming a part of, because all I could think about is getting back to the city and not being connected and not knowing where to go, because sometimes when I come to visit, I'm like stuck in a box. I'm either with my family or I'm with a friend, or or I don't come visit.
Yes.
So that experience it was kind of daunting when I started thinking about moving back to Detroit, like, and one of the things that Sean was saying, he was giving me different outlets to connect with, and I just wasn't with it. I just was like, I don't see myself as the person who's saying, "Oh, can I be a part of you all? Oh, can I be a part of you all? Oh, what are you all doing? Can I be a part of you all?" And I had to sit with that for a minute, because I'm like, well, that's not vanity, it's just, it's hard. Like I remember when I lived in Indiana and it was so cliquey, and I was just like, man, I don't have a support system. And so that's when I pledged. That's when I pledged Delta, because I was just like, oh, I should have did this before I moved here. I would have had a support system coming into this place, but I had to search out for my support systems. And that ended up being one of the most important experiences of my life. But what I will say is that since I've been back here, soaring, right, what it means to soar is, how do you separate yourself? Because all birds don't soar. Like you hear in the word where it talks about eagle soaring, right? You hear, and that's really the reference that I have for soaring, eagles.
Yes.
So when I think about soaring, And for me to have gotten to that space, I had to separate myself from people who I really cared about, from people who I realized didn't really care about me and my progression, from people who were, and I'm not, and when I say people, let me just reframe that and say spirits, because we all embody certain spirits,
Yeah.
and there's good and bad, and I think inherently I think automatically we inherit good spirits, but we get to choose, and environments get to influence which ones we choose ultimately what we want to host. And so I started disconnecting myself from certain spirits that I didn't even want no longer to be a part of how I was thinking and doing business or loving people or expecting love and whatever. However, that can go a whole nother way. And I was so much more focused on my work. And I had never really felt the joy of that unless it was a deadline or, I was trying to beat my own goals. It got to the point where once I plateaued at my goals, I said, well, what's next? Like I wasn't dreaming. I didn't, and I can't say I had to learn how to dream, and so when I went back to spirit and said, hey, what's next? like I've plateaued this place, and I don't know, I didn't plan for B after this. And I think that was the best space to be in, because now spirit can say, I'm so glad you didn't have a vision, because now I can give you the vision that I want for you. Right. And that just really put me in a still position, like, oh, and I'm a thinker and an analyzer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, to get there, so-and-so can't go, because that, oh, it was just, everything was just becoming so clear about how God was going to use the power that he had given me. And that meant that to soar, you have to be alone. And there was some preparation, right? There was a lot of preparation to embrace aloneness, not loneliness, aloneness. Because even in my aloneness, I'm like, well, this kind of feels lonely. And then there would be a different perspective on what loneliness I was experiencing for me to say, okay, this is just my flesh wanting gratification, because I've been starving the flesh from certain spirits, right? So when you starve the flesh from certain spirits, just like you starve your body when you're trying to get into a routine of a diet plan, you're going to have those cravings at some point.
Yeah.
But the vision was soaring, because that's what was coming out of my mouth. Like, I really want to soar with the egos. What's that like?
What's that like? So define it for me one more time.
Separation.
So how has soaring been a thread throughout your life?
That's interesting. When you, what I love about that is that it makes me really acknowledge that some things really never change. They just expand.
Uh-huh.
And when I hear people talk about me, especially like my family members, and old friends that, like, back in the day, I hear how I was always separated. Right? How, like one of my homeboys recently, he said, when I came back to Detroit, he said, man, I always knew you was going to be somebody and do something. It was just how you carried yourself in school. You were serious about your schooling,
Yeah.
You were serious about what you wanted. You were serious about, your future, and you had vision. And I'm like, oh, you saw that at a high school age? He was like, absolutely. So when I hear my family talk about me, it's, they talk about me in a sense where it felt negative, right?
Okay.
It felt isolating. It felt critical. But that's what happens when you are set apart and people see that you're not a part of the pack.
Yes.
They try to, unintentionally attack you with what's uncomfortable with them. And, I think the thread has been the self-confidence and just the future vision of knowing that, man, I want greater for myself. Like I didn't, as a teenager, I saw greater being college and some form of business where I was suited and booted and carrying a suitcase, making some decisions. Didn't know what that looked like. I just knew that, hey, this is my vision. And I was going for that. And it wasn't until I think I was maybe in Chicago where that image came back to me. And I was like, oh, I am making decisions. And I do take a briefcase, well, a little form of a briefcase, but it was like, wow, I was teaching career counseling. And I was just sharing with my class how some of the things that interest us and that piques our interest for just a small amount of time can be something that we recycle back to later down the line, right? Because when I went to Bowling Green as a freshman, when I started hearing people talk about they had been in school for 5 and 6 years, I'm like, oh no, I only got a 4-year scholarship. I can't be here for 5 and 6 years. Yeah. Who's going to pay for that? And I went to the career counselor and they did an assessment on me, now the same assessment that we now use for other people, right? Which is interesting how I circle back around to that. Mm-hmm. And on my assessment, all I was looking for at 18, 17 years old is journalism there? Is TV, radio, broadcast there? Because if that's there, I'm here doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was there, but everything else was there too that I never thought that I would engage. Like a counselor was there, a teacher was there, a professor was there, an editor was there, a politician was there. Like, and I was just like, oh no, I don't like politics. So it's interesting. So now, I think in addition to the thread and soaring throughout my life, soaring is about tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. So I've always been a person focused on the prize and the goal, a planner. So tunnel vision, and tunnel vision comes with, sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks, but no thanks. You know what I'm saying?
It does. It makes me think about, we didn't talk about this, but what are some ways that you've had to bounce back and be resilient?
Well, heartbreak is a really hard thing to bounce back from. So I'm just going to be real, right? I'm just going to keep it real for the Resiliency Project, because as women and as men, so let me not segregate the sexes, because we all love.
Yeah.
We all want to receive it. We all want to give it in our own special ways. And we all are afraid of rejection and not receiving it like we give it, right? But during my soaring, or during my tunnel vision, or during my development and evolving, I've experienced heartbreak from intimate relationships, family relationships, heartbreak on the job, where it's just like, why am I being persecuted? I did nothing but to come with some ideas. And that's really all about how we expect people to see us.
Yeah.
Or to validate what we have. And what helped me to be able to bounce back in these situations, and now to the point where my bounce back, it doesn't take as long as it used to. Like now, I could probably bounce back within a few hours now, because where God has challenged me to embrace the concept that choice is a God-given power that we all have, right? Like choice, you cannot take nobody's choice from them, whether you like it or not. So even if I build a situation up so much so that I'm going to make it to where your choice will be what I want your choice to be, that's some skilled manipulation, right?
Yes.
But even if so just a prime example, this is a real life experience, my sister is turning 50 next month on March 9th. And my nephew came to me and said, hey, what are we doing for my mother's 50th? And I said, nothing. she said she had plans, and he was like, no, and I said, well, I thought she wanted to go out of town, but he was just like, I don't know if that's gonna happen. Long story short, I said, well, let's do her intimate dinner. Right. By that time, the state would have been opened up because our governor opened the state up on February 1st.
Okay.
And so it went into becoming a surprise dinner for her, right? So long story short, he got her contacts, family, I sent out let me say but because I don't want to seem like I did this, but we sent out a general text message to a good amount of people, letting them know that this is what her family was planning for her. Okay. And if they wanted to participate and celebrate her and receive a formal invitation, to send their address. Okay. So we sent out 59 invitations. And the cutoff was going to be 50. You send out 59 invitations, you get probably half of that.
Yeah.
But in the invitation, we gave 3 options to celebrate her, right? You can come have dinner with us. You can regret and submit some, funds for a gift idea that I gave them 3 gifts that they can, kind of donate money to. Or you can do a drive-by celebration at 7:30 p.m. where, if you are still in that space where you want to be socially distanced away from people, then drive by and say happy birthday, And so we really put some thought into making sure that it was safe, it was socially distanced, even within, the physical experience, and delivered her own invitation, right? Nice little fancy invitation with her masquerade mask. It's a black tie masquerade. And she was really excited, really excited that she thought her children had planned something like this for her. And when they told her that it was her sister, and she started asking people questions she was asking her kids where they come in and that type of thing. But there was, but she was trying to poke around to see who was really being invited. And when my niece informed me of that, I just sent my sister a text message and said, please do not do this, right?
Yeah.
Well, afterwards, she said, I don't want this dinner. What? Well, her words were, this is not what I want. And then she said, there's a pandemic and blah, 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 blah. And, and so I said, oh, okay, thank you. That's cool. No more conversation needs to be had at this point,
right?
About what money went into, like what, that's unnecessary, because guess what? She gets to choose that.
It's her choice.
It's her choice. And whether it was a surprise or not, planned with love, I get to say, okay, we did this at our risk.
Now, I know the reaction that I just had when you said that she made the choice not to go the way that you would have wanted. In your maturation in this season of soaring, do you feel it or not?
I don't feel it in my body.
Really?
I do not. And there's times where I know what that feeling feels like. It's fire in your chest. It's like it's not the butterflies, but it's like the knots in your stomach.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the dryness in your throat when you have a frog experience. Like, no.
Wow.
But the other thing to that is I attribute that to being connected to spirit, because over the weekend, I woke up in the middle of the night and I got this download that she's going to reject this. And I said, oh, okay, well, then what do we do from here? Go on with party as planned. And I've been okay with that, honestly, like my right hand up to God.
So because you are connected to God, you already knew it was going to happen.
And I think that's another example of what it looks like to soar to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because who are you soaring with?
Yeah.
Right? Eagles soar alone, but they're not in the sky alone. No. You hear what I'm saying? That ain't they sky. That's the Lord's sky.
Now, so when we talked about soaring, as we were kind of prepping, the image that came to my mind was thinking about how when a bird is going up into
Well,
the
let's not say
atmosphere,
bird because it ain't a bird. A bird can't
eagle,
soar.
an eagle, when an eagle is making its way up into the, and they fly at a higher altitude.
Well, let me correct myself. Birds can soar, but they soar at a lower altitude,
Mm-hmm. And
right?
eagles are at a higher altitude. So when they're soaring, it means that their arms are outstretched and they're not flapping against the wind. They're just effortlessly doing what they're doing, going where they're going. And that's the image that I see in my mind of what it means to soar. So you really brought it full circle, because when I don't ever think I have seen eagles together. Now that you say that, now I need to do some more research and see, because sheesh, I never thought. I'm like, do they have partners? Like what?
They have to at some point because they got to make them.
Yeah. So, but then do they separate afterwards? I need to do some research on that. Like, thank you. I got my seed and now I'm going my way. Like, I don't know. Like, I
Well,
don't
yeah,
know.
think about that. Like if we all are just here, and I say this often, like if we're just spiritual beings having a earthly experience,
Yeah.
right? So if we're here just having an earthly experience, what do you want your experience to be of when you get that concept in your mind? My
Yeah.
experience does not have to be filled with drama. My experience does not have to be filled with negative experiences. My influence can now be what I choose for it to be. However, I was telling my girlfriend this morning because she checked on me. It was like, "You good?" And I was like, "Listen." She was like, she said, "From this point on, I want you to only connect with people who value every part of you." And I said, "Yeah, I do. But I've been created to love even the unlovable."
And is it really possible to only connect with people who love all of you? Because I think the people who don't love all of us sharpen the parts of us that need to be refined.
I agree. I agree with that.
So that's really good. So what do you want people to know about soaring, Shonda? What do you want leaders to know?
Well, I think leaders already know that they have to separate themselves, you know, because leadership, you know, leadership is just like a school counselor. It could be a lonely place,
Yeah.
right? Especially if you're the one who is responsible for the vision, right? Think about Moses. Moses was in leadership and it wasn't his vision, it was God's vision, but his vision of himself was very low, you
Yeah.
know, like what? But then when God showed him, hey, I could do whatever I want to do with you, and he surrendered to that, he then had to be separated.
Mm-hmm.
And he was already separated before he came into his leadership.
He was.
But then he had to be separated again in his leadership. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think that we all want to be leaders and we all are leaders. There's a leader in every last one of us. But I think that because we go from level to level in everything, in our leadership, in our relationships, that don't be afraid to press through the level that you have never been exposed to. There are levels that we will never, be prepped for.
Yeah.
There are levels that God might not never say, here's a glimpse of that. This is where you're going. You might just walk into it unbeknownst to you, but be loose and be, when we're talking about airy,
Yeah.
right? Be flexible enough to once you get it, once you walk or you transition into that next dimension, mentally and spiritually, you're like, oh, I'm in another dimension. It's game time. Like and I'm talking about leaders who are already in leadership position. Like this is not where you plateau. Mm-hmm. And we think that once we get in leadership positions, oh, I made it. No, you still got to go another level. You got to go higher. Unless you die,
Yeah, we always need to be pivoting.
Always. Because that's the type of guy we serve. He is never he just has too many. He's just full of surprises.
I mean, we cannot comprehend God. And so, getting into a leadership position, you're always having to seek God for different levels and different understanding. It's never going to be the same. Every day is a new day. New mercy every day in real life.
Every day. That's real good. That's good, Pen. That's it right there.
Woo.
So don't think that just because now you become the director or the CEO or the owner of or the creator of, that's it. That's not it.
It's not it.
That's just a part of you, like this happenstance theory that me and my students have been discussing through a discussion board. Like, why plan the rest of your life? Life happens by happenstance.
Okay.
Like, you evolve into life.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is not for the resiliency project, but I was talking to one of my homeboys last night, and he said, what? He said, how did you tell? We were talking about relationships because he was sharing about a relationship experience that he had currently had. And I said, well, I just had to, unfortunately go a different route with a friend who was pursuing me because he thought I disappeared from him. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I didn't disappear. I evolved. And so my friend said, ooh, he like held his stomach like, ooh, like that hurt. And I would steal it. And I said, that's fine. But I did not. Like, we have to, like, if you're not growing, then I'm growing out of you.
Yeah, that's good right there. If you're not growing, I'm growing. And if we're in this together and we're growing together, we're evolving at the same time or in process with each other. You can't hide your evolution from me. Even in friendships, it's like when people are evolving, if I don't want to go where you're going, I'm not going. But I'm like, no, where you going, Shonda? Let's go. And there's some places that I cannot go because of where you are, because of how God designed you and how God designed me. Like, I can't sit in all the same rooms with all the doctors, because y'all speak a different language than I speak.
Unless it's time for you to learn that language.
Indeed.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, indeed. There's never a closed door. The doors are open. It's just, are you ready to go through them, walk through them?
Now that's good right there.
And yeah. I've been petitioning God in the sense that I'm ready to walk through them, but I know I can't do them without you.
Yeah. And show me where the doors are. Show me where the doors are. Like, sometimes I know it's not, like how we see on TV where there's like magical doors. But I think if my eyes are open when I'm walking, I will see where God is showing me to go. But if my eyes are closed and I'm just doing everything in the mundane, I'm walking past all the opportunities because I'm not looking for them. Yeah.
Or you're looking for something that you're familiar with.
It's not coming in the package that I thought it was going to come in.
You know what I'm saying? And I had that experience too at some point, and it was just like, okay, Lord, give me the eyes that you have so I can see what you want me to see.
Yes.
But that comes with changing our language. Yeah. Like, leaders, as leaders, if we are leaders, who are we leaders for first?
That's a good question.
Like, are you a leader for yourself? Because you can be.
You could be.
Are you a leader for this organization? Because you could be.
Yeah.
Are you a leader for your family?
You could
or be. Are you a leader for the Almighty? Because if you're a leader for the Almighty, then he's going to use you in all those different areas, but based upon how he needs to use you and what are you willing to reveal to him and surrender, right? So when I come boldly naked, like, hey, man, you created me. Tell me what you want me to do down here.
Yeah. I mean, and you have some of the greatest faith of anybody that I really know. Like you have such great faith and do like some of your adventures and your trips. I'm like, whoa, like that's great faith, I love it. And that's just really, it's really resonating with me that's why you have to be careful with the people that you keep in your life. Because if you don't have the right people in your life, you won't get where you're supposed to get to.
And those people are all on different levels too. They're
Yeah.
all not on the same level. Like each special person to me, they provoke or push or trigger a different go get itness in me.
Yeah.
Right. And I had to be able to identify what is this person doing for me and what am I doing for them? Because I want to make sure that I'm doing them justice. And I also want to make sure that I'm receiving, you know, justice, if that's a,
Yeah.
if I could use that. But one of my girlfriend and I, who we do these writing retreats every so often, every other month or whatever, to just to connect and take a break from life. We've begun saying, I'm too old to be somewhere I don't want to be.
Yes.
And I'm too grown to be doing something that doesn't fulfill me.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the experiences where there's rejection, like, am I really looking at this as rejection from my sister? No, I'm looking at this as she get to choose. She got a choice and she made her choice, and I'm fine with that. Even though I might have my own personal opinions about her and her patterns of behavior, that has nothing to do with the plan and what's on the table right now.
Yeah.
And when we're still paying from some things, we use every nugget we can to throw at this situation to validate our own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that. God validates my emotions, and he validated it by telling me it was about to come.
Being in tune with the Holy Spirit is like pivotal.
It's my water and bread.
So tell our listeners how they can connect with you. You have books, you have articles out there, research. They might want to learn more from you because you are an educator. So can you let them know how they can connect with you?
www.tutenterprises.org, and that is TUTENterprises.org.
Thank you so much for your authenticity today. I mean, these are the kinds of conversations that we have in real life, and the Resilience Project is more than just getting to 100 declarations. It's also an opportunity for me to introduce my friends to my friends so that we can all do great work in the kingdom. And so I appreciate you and all of the ministry that we've done together. You have been really, really important in many moments of my life when I have had to bounce back.
Oh, amen.
Yeah. So
and you have for me too. That's not a one-way street.
So I'm grateful for you, and thank you for joining us. Those of you all who this is your first time being here, thanks. There's many, many more conversations like this on my YouTube channel, and go to www.tutenterprises.org. Buy a book, a journal, read an article, a blog post, or something, because it is important that you invest in yourself and in your personal growth. Have an awesome day, and we love you so much.
Bye, everybody. Hope to see you engage with me soon.